It's playoff time. The best time of the year to be a football fan is upon us. It's crazy to think that the NFL season has already come and gone, but here we are. The San Francisco 49ers couldn't be more healthy. They couldn't be clicking at a higher pace than what they are. They are the hottest team in the league. They are undefeated in their division. They have the league's best defense and an offense that is trending in the right direction. I believe the 49ers have the easiest path to the Super Bowl out of all the teams that are vying for a spot. The question is, do you agree with me? Well, we're going to find out next because it is open mic night. It is your night to get off your takes right here on Last Second Sports. We're going to do that next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And as I said, it is open mic night, which is not something that we've been doing every week throughout the year. It has been a crowded schedule. However, this is the playoffs, which means you have a lot on your minds. And I want to give you the opportunity to talk. I'm going to try to do this through each week throughout the playoffs that the 49ers are still remaining. And we've already got a couple people waiting. So if you want to tap in, I always say do it early. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. The quicker you are at getting in, the faster you're able to get on and get off. We do a 5-minute timer here so that everybody has time to get their takes off. And per usual, you know it's a call-in show here on Last Second Sports when Korean 49er kicks us off. What's up, Korean 49er?
I'm good, Jesse. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really good, man. It's really good to see you. How you been?
Yeah. Can't complain too much.
Good.
How about yourself?
I'm great, man. I am great. The 49ers are giving us a lot to be excited about, Korean 49er. They're giving us a lot to be excited about, brother.
I agree. So, on to first topic is kind of a general football topic. So, have you heard of a player from the 70s named Chuck Hughes?
Yes.
He is the only player in the history of the NFL that died on the field because I believe the Lions were playing the Bears and Chuck collapsed right in front of Dick Butkus.
Yep.
And Chuck had a heart attack. So when they say you can die on a football field, I mean, you can get seriously injured on a football field. Ask Darryl Stingley or those kind of guys. I mean, sad, but it happened. And, you know, when you put your name on the dotted line, you know the risk of when you play the game, you know that there's that risk that it could happen to you. Hopefully DeMar's doing much better. So that's the first thing.
Well, first of all, two things. The thing with Chuck Hughes is he had actually collapsed earlier in that year. And
Yes.
Obviously this was a long time ago. So he was able to come back and play again later that season. And we saw the result of that. Hamlin does seem to be doing much better. He was able to go home yesterday, just a week from the time that he was given CPR on the field. 1 week later, he was able to go home, be with his family in his home. That's incredible news.
Yes. So when they say yeah, I remember hearing Dick Butkus on a radio show said that's the worst experience he ever had on a football field with someone dying in front of him. So, But onto the playoff game, I think Seattle at least has a puncher's chance. You never know when it's a one and done. Anything's possible. I'm not giving them a great chance, but you know, did anyone give Buster Douglas a chance against Mike Tyson in Tokyo?
That's true. No, that's very true. Hey, you know what? If you're going to talk boxing, what I would liken it to is Manny Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez, right? Juan Manuel Marquez was 0-3, I believe, against Pacquiao, or they had a draw and 2 or 3 losses, and then the fourth time he finally caught him. So you're right. Anything can happen.
So I still see the 49ers winning, and if everything goes right, they play let's say the Vikings win the next week, or they'll play the Vikings in Santa Clara, and if the Eagles somehow lose, they could have all their playoff games at home before a potential Super Bowl in Arizona. But my thing about Seattle is I think their defense did cause Brock problems in that Thursday night game. He did have that one interception. And I know that I believe Seattle has a couple of good defensive players out, so that'll help the 49ers. So I just want to see a chance of the 49ers relying a little bit more on the run and not putting all the pressure on Brock as the Patriots would on when Tom Brady was in his prime.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the 49ers will do a good job of doing what they're comfortable with Brock. Seattle's defense right now, though, you talked about being injured the last time they played. Well, they just lost Jordan Brooks for the season. And when you talk about losing him for the season, they lost Jamal Adams for the season very, very early on. I mean, those were probably their two biggest names going into the season on defense, and they're both now out. Quandre Diggs, you could make an argument he would have been one. Now, they've obviously had people come through and get groomed and be good defensive players, but for the most part, the two big guys or three big guys on their team, two of the three are out defensively. So I think the 49ers, I don't know, man. I know that we should be weary of this game, third time playing a team, division opponent, all those things, rain. I just don't see this being a close game, but that's me. Maybe I'm way too optimistic on this one.
I'm optimistic on a win, but, you remember when Jimmy Johnson was the Hurricanes coach, he always said, I can defend winning all day long if I won by 1 or by 42 points.
Yeah.
He said he could never defend losing.
It's true. It's very true. Very, very true.
So, but I remember I was sick over the weekend, so I went to sleep early on that Sunday night game, the Lions and Packers game.
Yeah.
Then I had one of my buddies, a good Packers fan, and he started I'm not saying he was crying. He was just so disappointed and deflated. I was like, it's going to happen someday, man. You can't ask him to play as great as he did for all those years now when he's approaching 40.
Yeah, it's funny because I have friends that are Green Bay Packers fans as well. And we talked a lot last year when the Green Bay Packers were knocked out of the playoffs by the 49ers. And a couple of them were ready to move on from Rodgers. I'm like, I don't know. For me, I would give it one more year. I feel like the window's still open. You got the possibility. And they couldn't make the playoffs this year. I think now is the right time. Whether he retires, if he retires, he's making the decision for them. But if he doesn't, I think this is the right time to trade him, get something for him, and just move on to the next chapter. And Jordan Love, who is rumored to possibly want to get traded if he is not the starting quarterback this next year, which is completely understandable. So I think it's time to rip that Band-Aid off and go to Jordan Love either way.
Yeah. And one last point on anybody saying that the 49ers should trade Trey Lance. I understand for the reason that he's not seeing the field. I can respect and understand it, but the 49ers are in the catbird seat.
Mm-hmm.
You found two young quarterbacks in the draft and have them under salary control for a window of time.
Yep.
How many teams can say that they have one? 49ers have two.
Yep.
So you can really load up on any areas where the team may be weak.
I agree.
To me,
I agree. I mean,
why are you going to – I kind of think that if they want to trade Trey, you're cutting your own nose off to spite your own face. When everybody
think about it like this. Imagine just by getting rid of Jimmy and him not being on the roster anymore, imagine the players that you could have gotten for Jimmy if he wasn't on the roster last year. Like, let's say they were in this same scenario this year with Purdy and Lance and they knew what they had, and Jimmy was going to come back. They could have just cut that salary and easily went out and got an extra player or two, which could have been helpful at this point. I mean, it would be nice to have another player in the secondary. There's some depth pieces they can get. You're right. I mean, regardless of whether the Trey is the starter or the backup, Purdy's the starter or the backup, none of that really matters. You need to have two quarterbacks, especially for the 49ers, the way that their quarterbacks get injured. Why not? Why not keep them cheap, young, develop them both, and see what happens?
I mean, my thing is unless you find the next Dan Marino-style franchise quarterback for the next 10 to 12 seasons,
right?
I don't see any reason to pay a ton of money for starting quarterbacks. That is hinging upon finding them in the draft or undrafted free agency or whatever type of man. So, all right. Thanks, Jesse. You have a
All
nice
right, brother.
week.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right, Hadiz, we're going to get to you next. As I said, the link is pinned in the chat. If you want to come on, you want to talk 49ers football, you want to ask any questions, you want to talk a little bit of trash about my past takes, whatever it is, now's the time to do so. Hit the pin link in the chat and come on and let's talk some 49er football. Dr. Jaspreet Dahar, I think you've called in, Doctor, a couple months ago. I'm pretty sure you called in. Anyways, says, I'm worried about covering DK and Lockett. Lenore is going to get exposed again. What is the plan here? Here's something interesting about Lenore. He had an interview with NBC Sports. And if you go to his Twitter and you go through his like tweets, he's been on a rampage liking everybody's negative tweets about him from that interview. Everybody that talked crap about him said, get him off this team. He's garbage. He's going to cost us a Super Bowl. Anybody saying that stuff, he's been going through and liking those tweets. So he's obviously motivated by what people are saying. He's hearing it all. He knows what the 49er fan base thinks of him. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to all of a sudden come out and just play like a monster, but you got to like the mentality from Diamador Lenore. At the very least, you have to like it. Hopefully that lights a fire, makes him play a little bit better. Again, I don't think he's been playing as bad as what people want to make it out to be. He's not playing great by any means, but he's not playing that horrible. A pass here or there, it's going to happen. It's funny because it reminds me a little bit of Ambry Thomas last year. Ambry Thomas was getting cooked by everybody when he was brought up in any conversation about the 49ers. But when you went and watched him snap in and snap out, he was actually playing pretty good. Lenore, much like Thomas, is having trouble tracking the ball. He's right there to make plays, but having trouble tracking the ball. I don't know. We'll see how he plays. I hope he's not the weak link, but you're right. I mean, if the team can expose him, it's a team with two really good receivers. Seattle's been unable to do so to this point, only scoring 13 offensive points in 2 games. One of those games was with Lenore in the lineup, and we saw the result. So we'll see. We'll see if they're able to take advantage of it. Maybe, maybe not. We're going to bring on Hadiz. What's up, Hadiz? How are you?
Not bad, Jesse. How are you?
I'm doing really good, man. How you been?
Oh, I've been enjoying the Niners football recently. Man, they're on a 10th streak, doing
Yeah.
damn good in my opinion.
Absolutely, brother.
You said in the beginning of the show that you think the Niners have a nice, easy road to the Super Bowl. I want to know
Well,
how
hold on.
you think.
Let me clarify. I think out of all the teams, they have the easiest path. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I think rounds 1 and 2, they can get by pretty easy. I think obviously once you get to the Eagles or whoever it is in the NFC Championship, that could be a little bit of a tougher game. And then the Super Bowl is going to be crazy. But when you look at the teams along their path compared to what the Eagles will have to play before they would get to the 49ers, or what Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati would have to play before they get to the AFC Championship, I think the 49ers have a much easier path than some of them. Most of them, all of them.
So you kind of answered my question already. I was going to ask, who do you think the 2 to 3 opponents will be the Niners will fear the most heading into their weeks now?
That will fear the most?
Yeah. So aside from Seattle, because I don't know if you want to count them, but
I have no concerns about this game. Zero concerns. Like, I don't, and again, maybe I'm a little bit cocky. I don't know, but I have zero concerns about this game. I really do. You know, if I was putting a percentage on it, everybody has a chance, but I'd give Seattle like a 5% chance to win this game. I think it's that small. I think
that's really bold.
It's low. It's extremely low in my book. I have zero concerns about this game. I'm confident in Brock Purdy. I don't have a lot of confidence in Geno Smith. I think the 49ers defense, again, they've seen this team twice, and Seattle has been unable to put up points against the 49ers thus far, and their defense is more banged up than it's ever been. I don't see how they stop the 49ers. I really don't. And let's not forget that the 49ers are the healthiest they've been, I mean, all season. Outside of like week 1, is this the healthiest they've been?
If you're Looking past quarterback, then I would say yeah. But I mean, losing your cornerback 1 and your quarterback 1 and
For
2,
sure.
it's
For
kind of
sure.
tough.
For sure. And I would say we're seeing the effects at corner. I don't think we're seeing the effects at quarterback.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, when I saw it with Jimmy, but when Jimmy got like unfortunately injured, I was so happy to see Brock play. He just looked like that spark in a relationship. Like that's the spark I saw, and I was
Right.
like, damn, this guy is insane. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you as well was heading into this week against Seattle. It looks like everyone's overlooking them, but it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row.
It is.
And especially because it's a coach that knows what they're doing. Pete Carroll against the Niners, his overall record. Now, you could say this season, the Niners are 2-0. Playoffs is different. Brock Purdy hasn't played a playoff game, and I could say the same for Geno Smith. But if I were to get an early prediction on this game, what do you think the score will be?
I'll go either 27-17 or like 24-13, something in that range.
Yeah.
I think the 10 points is going to be close. Like the spread right now is exactly at 10.
10.
I think that they'll either like get a push or they will barely cover that. I really think they can cover 10.
Yeah, well, I'm going to disagree with the spread in general. I just think this time around the Seahawks are they're playing with motivation now because I know on the defense side of the ball, I'm not expecting anything from Seahawks on the defensive side, but on offense, they got a nice rookie running back, 2 great wide receivers, an underrated tight end, and a quarterback who's playing pretty well. Now, I guess you can say, hey, that offensive line, it's a bunch of rookies. They played all right, although Nick Bosa got 3.5 a pop. My concern is Diamondro Lenore and Tyler Funga biting on a play, misreading it and just getting how should I say this? It's like a deep ball and then they connect it to Tyler Lockett. That's what I fear the most. And does it not concern you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I could see a play like that happening. I mean, it's been happening in almost every game, so I wouldn't be shocked if a play like that happens, especially early. But no, it doesn't concern me because I think outside of that, I don't know if Seattle can score a touchdown, right? Like they went the whole first game with 0 offensive points scored, period. They had
2
the
horrible
special teams blocked field goal that were blocked extra point or whatever field goal. And then last game, if I remember correctly, they scored super late and kind of garbage time, but really outside of that, they're not putting up any touchdowns against the 49ers. So I don't know. I think it's going to take a play or two like that for them to be able to score on San Francisco. I don't trust their ability to be able to sustain drives. I think ultimately that's what it's going to take to beat San Francisco. I don't think it's going to be the big play early on in a game that catches you off guard. I think it's going to be able to, if a team can sustain drives, keep the ball away from San Francisco, I think that's the game plan. And if you look at the way the 49ers lost against the Rams last year and lost in the Super Bowl, both those games were games that they did not control the time of possession, oddly enough. I want to say the Rams had it 33 minutes on the 49ers and the Chiefs had it 35. That might have been flipped, but they control time of possession, which is ultimately what the 49ers want to do. So I think sustaining drives and putting drives together and playing keep away, wearing down the defensive line, I think that's how you beat the 49ers. I just don't think Seattle has that in them to do it.
Oh, I don't know if I can agree with you on that, but I think we'll see this week. But the one final question I want to ask you this before I have to go because there's many other callers. It's what is the matchup you're looking this week? DK Metcalf, Charvarius Ward, how about Fred Warner, Kenneth Walker III? What is the matchup you like this week against Seattle Seahawks?
Well, first of all, we got time to talk because there was 3 people waiting backstage. They all dropped off at the same time. So I don't know if they had like connection issues or what's going on, but right now it's just you and I, brother. So if anybody's watching and wants to call in, now would be the time to do it. I've got Hadiz on and then nobody waiting. I don't know what happened to the other 3 that dropped off. I don't know if they're having issues. Maybe people are having trouble getting backstage, but now I would say would be the time to call in. But the matchup that I'm looking most forward to, I think again would be probably DK versus Charvarius Ward. I think that's the one, because that's the one thing we know that Lockett's a good receiver, and I think he was able to get his a little bit. DK hasn't done really anything in 2 games against San Francisco. He's got to figure out a way to get off if they want to have a chance to win. You talked about the offense. They do have a lot of offensive skill players. Let me talk about this for a second. Here is an issue that they are having, and a little bit different than Trent Williams. But, there was a lot made about when I made the Trent Williams video about him telling his plays and all those other things. Their left tackle does something similar, but it's not telling run or pass. It's telling how he's going to block the player across from him. Nick Bosa was able to pick up on that very, very quickly in that last game. And every single time he knew exactly what the counter move was going to be from their left tackle, and he obliterated him for it. So I don't know if they know that's a tell or if he knows it's a tell, but Nick Bosa saw something. So unless they fix that, Bosa is going to be in the backfield on a regular basis against them. So that's another thing. They're going to have to figure out how to stop this pass rush, in particular, Nick Bosa against their left tackle. I have a question for you, though. We're talking about their offense. What's their defense going to do to stop the 49ers from hanging 30 on them?
Jesus. I can't say for certain, but I could say they can match the coverage that Kansas City did. Try to let them D-tackles pick apart the guards. And I guess what I'm saying is a cover 6, similar to what the Niners do. Try to limit Christian McCaffrey, just let him pick up the 3 to 2 yards, but not the big plays. I think they would especially look at Kittle now because, he's on a rampage these past couple of weekends in the goal line, or just – I think the last game he had 2 touchdowns and over 100 scrimmage yards. He was insane. I think they would be confident doubling Kittle and let their great outside corners play some ball, some nice, maybe not press man coverage, but a little off coverage, because I like Tariq Woolen. I think he's one of the great corners right now that Seattle has. Kobe Bryant, I don't really like him that much. He's a little small, so if Jawan Jennings can size him up, that'd be third and Jawan, I guess. But
yeah, 100%, 100%. And I just, especially with Mitchell back now, having that 1-2 punch and CMC and Mitchell, if the 49ers run for 185 plus on them, I wouldn't be shocked.
And you got Debo back in the fold. They missed him last week, or last time they played.
Yeah.
You better expect Debo to be running against those Hawks on them outside tosses. I really hope no counter concepts or run inside the tackles, because that'd be, in my opinion, really stupid, because that's not what Debo does great. I think outside the tackles, running towards the outside, I think Debo does that really. Not the best, but in my opinion, the best. Because I like
screens and sweeps. Screens and sweeps. Keep him clean. Get him on screens and sweeps. Allow him to go up against corners, because those are tackles he's going to break all day long. Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, for sure. Another question I had for you, and I didn't know if I had enough time asking this question.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Do you think Quandre Diggs will get that nice pick he had last time? Because Brock Purdy, he kind of threw it right to him the last game. But I guess it's a little learning mistake for Purdy. But Quandre Diggs so far in these past couple of games, he hasn't dropped those picks. He's been on a roll. Surprised he wasn't an All-Pro vote. But do you see him having an impact in this game?
I do. I think that's the one player. I think that's the one player on defense that might get his hands on one. I think that's probably got to be Seattle's game plan, is how did they disguise Quandre Diggs and get him in get Purdy in curious moments where he might throw one up, because if that happens, Quandre is not going to drop it this time. He's just not. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
He's a heady player, very, very smart. He knows how to disguise coverage really well. And I think that's their one shot to get a pick on Purdy. If there's a pick on Purdy, I would bet almost everything I have that it comes from Diggs.
Quandre, yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know about that one. Tariq Woolen might catch one as well. He has been.
The problem though, and I'm not saying Woolen's not good. I could see that scenario, but the 49ers can isolate away from him. They can run a game plan. Okay, if he's in a lineup on the right all game long or the left all game long, follow one particular receiver, they can just stay away from him if they want. They can remove him from the game. Quandre Diggs is going to be all over the place. He roams all over. He's going to be
right next to Kittle.
Disguises himself. So he's going to be the one that I think has the biggest chance to do it.
He's got a tough matchup at Kittle, but I bet you Seattle will like that double coverage they'll have on Kittle because I think right now Purdy's favorite target aside from Brandon Ayuk and CMC, it's got to be Kittle.
Yeah.
So that is a very important matchup. I'm not sure if I'm out of time. You just got to let me know, all right? Kick me off.
You're good. I got Corbin waiting, so we'll get to Corbin here in a minute. Corbin, I appreciate you hopping in. But if you got one more thing, man, go ahead and drop it.
So far this season, it's been a rocky up and down season. You know, the Niners haven't had that one since Kansas City, that one game where it's like, what are you doing? You know? Do you think Seattle will have that one drive where it's like, geez, what is the Niners defense doing? Similar to like how the Raiders played with Devontae Adams, because I still think DK is all pro. I still think Tyler Lockett's Pro Bowl and Kenneth Walker can still run. And remember, it's a rainy game, so it might mess up the feel of the game. Do you think that this Niners defense can at least hold Seattle to 21 points? Because that's what I think they need to do to win.
Yeah, I certainly do. Here's the thing is I would expect the third time around that Seattle has one drive in them where it's like either they get the long play or they do put it together. And again, it seems to be early. And it's not just this year. The 49ers tend to have these lapses very early in games. I can go back all the way back to, was it 2019 or was it 2020? Remember when they played the Rams and the Rams came out on fire and scored the touchdown? They went play action like 6-7 times in a row. Do you remember that game?
There was one home game they had this year where they just went cup 2 times and it was a touchdown. And it was really horrible coverage by I don't know, I think it was Diamador Lenore or some type of maybe Deontay Johnson, God knows.
Yeah, this one was I want to say 2 years ago, but either way, it seems like this defense over the last couple of years, when they're had early, and then they lock down, they figure it out, and they put things together. I think that's where Seattle has to do it. Seattle's going to have to score quickly. Yeah. They're going to have to do it quickly because if they don't, 49ers are going to settle in, and once they get confident, man, it's really, really hard to start putting up points on them.
All right, Jesse, I'd like to thank you for hosting me on this, or not hosting, having me on.
All right, brother. You have a good one, man. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Later. All right, Corbin, let me get to these super chats real quick, and then we'll get over to you. Double B Studio says, defensive plan is to rush harder and protect the corners. Agree. He also comes in and says, why I hate the Seattle match is the Niners players' injuries. Every time they play each other, players come out hurt. I would have rather another NFC team. Well, the difference is this one is in Santa Clara. You're right. I mean, the 49ers definitely have some get back for that NFC Championship game. We saw the way they treated Navarro Bowman. Mike Upati in that game was lost for the season, or would have been if they were able to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I agree with you. That is the game within the game. That is the biggest concern. To me, it's not beating Seattle. It's how healthy can they stay in doing so. That is the game within the game. I agree with that. Abu Marco says, heavy rain during this game. Seattle outranks the Niners in passing O and passing D. They are poor on rush O and nearly dead last in rush D. Their deep ball threat versus Lenore and Hufanga neutralized. Yeah, that's a good point. The rain is certainly going to play a factor. Does it play a factor negatively or positively for the 49ers? I don't know. Time will tell. But the 49ers can run the ball. And I think that travels well against anybody. When you can play defense, you can run the ball. That travels to any stadium, any weather, in my opinion. What's up, Corbin? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, brother.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to call in. What was his name? Hadiz? Is that who's just speaking?
Hadiz,
yeah. No, I mean, I get his worries about, Seahawks corners. Their rookie corners are doing pretty well. Obviously, Quandre Diggs is good, but I don't think it's going to come down to us having to pass the ball to them. I mean, Brock, I'm sure can hit what he needs to, but like, can they stop the run? And we have 4 or 5 running backs that can just take off. I mean, we have CMC. He can't do it. We have Elijah Mitchell back now. He can't do it. We got JP Mason busting out like 8 yards a run or whatever his average is. Like, I just don't see how they can stop us. And they gave up, I think, like 150 yards to the Rams. So I just, I mean, good luck.
Yeah, I think that's it, man. And they did. Again, they lost their best linebacker in Jordan Brooks. He tore his ACL 2 weeks ago against the Jets. That's going to be huge. And
Right.
he struggled. They actually took him out of the game against the 49ers because he was struggling last time. Well, now they don't have a chance to even play him. He has no chance to help that team out. I think that's a big deal personally. So I don't know. I guess I could see a scenario where Seattle puts together a drive or two, like I said.
Yeah.
Maybe they can put up points. I just don't know how they're going to. I don't know how they beat San Francisco in a shootout, which is interesting to say because a couple weeks ago, before Purdy was on this team, we were talking about, can Jimmy Garoppolo beat teams in a shootout? Well, I don't know if teams can beat the 49ers in a shootout, is where I'm at with it. And Seattle has a lot of offensive weapons, but push come to shove, I think the 49ers can control the ball. I think they can run the ball at will. And I think the 49ers win this game going away. That's me personally.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in that same boat. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be hard fought, but I think in the end, like they're not going to be able to stop our run, and which is going to lead up, to everything else that we can do with play action stuff, and it's just going to be too confusing, And then it's like also, well, guess what? We're attacking you with CMC. Like, oh well, actually, psych. Like we're going to attack you over here with Debo or Ayuk. Like,
right.
It's just how can you stop any of them? I mean, I think it's nice to see our offense finally like performing really well, and not being like, if only they put up more points. Now it's like, hey, we can withstand a big play here or there because we're putting up so many points in our offense. We can actually trust them to go down and score a touchdown versus a field goal or whatever it is. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and that's the biggest deal. I mean, once they're getting in the red zone, they are scoring. And
right.
I put out a stat on the channel in the community tab, but the 49ers are the best in the league in starting field position on both offense and defense. So right now, they're starting just inside on offense, just inside their own 31-yard line, which is number one in the league. And on defense, they're holding teams to starting just inside their 26-yard line, which is basically a touchback. They're basically limiting to a touchback every single time that the opposing team gets the ball. And then when they're getting the ball, they're getting 6+ yards. So you really see that start to come through the last couple of weeks in the complementary football. The 49ers are putting up a lot of points, but a lot of that is because they're starting in opponent's territory an awful lot. You're seeing it happen every single game. It happened twice last game. It happened like 4 times against Washington. They're getting turnovers. They're getting fourth down stops. They're pinning teams deep and then getting them to go 3 and out and getting good field position. It is happening on a regular basis at this point.
Yeah, I felt like the Washington game, they essentially were, besides like the 2 long touchdowns they had, we were just always on their side. It was pretty crazy. I guess my one worry I would have for this game would be that we come out a little bit too flat and just kind of like leave people maybe we like kind of like we played with the Raiders. We kind of underestimate them. Maybe the team was hungover. Who knows, like if they went out or not. I mean, it seemed like maybe they were a little not quite ready, or they even said they underestimated them. So I guess that would be my only worry is like, hey guys, it's playoff football. But at the same time, I got to think like, trust my coaches, trust the Niners coaches that they're going to have these guys ready to go, that we're just as motivated as the Seahawks who just squeezed in, that we're just as motivated to keep this streak going, right? And like go far in these playoffs. I mean, George Kittle literally has that video of him being like, I'm going to be back here. Well, George, this is your chance. Like,
this is it. This is it. Yeah, I agree with you, man. That video in 2019, man, that's one that will always be in my memory banks for sure. Yeah. I think one thing that's going for him is having young Brock Purdy being the leader of the offense. I feel like his excitement and just wanting to go out and prove himself in these moments is really going to rub off on the team. Mm-hmm. The team, it's cool because they've got a lot of players that are used to being in these moments. I don't think these moments are too big for them. They're battle tested, not only, this year, but if you look at previous years, the big players on this team have been battle tested. I think you have CMC, who really hasn't been in this situation, ever in his career, a couple times, maybe early on with Cam. And then you've got Brock Purdy. This is his first time. I really think those personalities and their excitement can be infectious on the rest of the team. So if for some reason they were going to come out flat, maybe, they weren't going to be fully tuned into this game and overlook them, I think those 2 players will inspire everybody else.
Yeah. And I think it's like kind of just a matter of like at least on the Cardinals, then maybe they come out a little flat. Although, I mean, maybe you want to say that was OPI, like who cares? Refs didn't call it, so it wasn't pass interference.
Right.
But also like I gotta forgive Demo a little bit, not forgive, but I mean he's like what 5'10" maybe. AJ Green's like 6'4", like 6'5". He's a big dude, right? Like, I mean, you can't really get mad at him. He made a play, and the other guy he's a little bigger, like, what are you going to do? This is unfortunate, but this is the reality. So, and then they, I think we can scheme around that. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for these playoff series, and I guess this first game, but it's kind of all I had. So.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Hey, thanks for calling in. This is the first time I've seen you call in. I think I'm going to be doing this throughout the playoffs, and I think the 49ers run is going to at least go to the NFC Championship. So by all means, call in the next couple of weeks, brother.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've talked a few times like on Twitter and stuff here.
Twitter,
but,
yeah.
Definitely the first time calling in. Sweet, man. Thanks.
All right, brother. Have a good one. All right, Twisted Ninja, let me get to these super chats real quick, and then I'll get to you. Jet Black says it would be killer with just CMC and Debo. Yeah, that's, I get it. Daywalker says, what contract would you give to Ayuk? Man, we're still a little bit of ways from that. I mean, they're going to pick up the 5th-year option at the end of this year, going into next year. The 5th-year option, I'm curious, is do they do the same thing with Kinlaw? I don't know. I think that one will be interesting to see how they handle that situation. But as far as Ayuk goes, I mean, we're a couple years away, and receiver contracts are only going to change throughout these next couple years. So we'll see. I wish I had a better answer for you, but at this moment, it's really, really hard to predict that. What's up, 49ers Breakdown? You know what's funny is I was just thinking about you before this show started because, first of all, I haven't seen you in forever. But second of all, I was going through my hats to see what I wanted to wear, and I saw the hat that you had sent me in there. So hopefully everything is going good with you. It's been a while for sure. All right, let's get to Twisted Ninja here. What's up, brother? You're giving me beard envy over there. Can you hear me?
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, how you doing, man? How you doing? You're giving me beard envy,
Hey, this
man.
is only a year and a half. I shaved it at 3 years. Yeah, this is only
That's
a year
wild,
and a half,
bro. That's wild. I like it. What's on your mind, man?
I just want to say I found you through Grant. Well, I found you through Grant. You guys, best content out there, because I love the fact that you guys you give it how it is. You know what I mean? You don't mess around and you don't coddle to anybody. You just give facts, and I like that. I want that in my content. I don't want to tell anybody, oh yeah, the Niners are doing great when they're out there sucking.
I appreciate that, brother. It's hard. It's hard, right? And it's a little bit different than Grant because Grant covers the team, and I think he does it in a really fun manner. I think especially when the 49ers are losing, I think people gravitate to Grant because he's really fun to watch. He's really entertaining, and he kind of helps you get through some of those tough losses because he is that engaging. With me, I'm a fan, so I go through the same emotions y'all do. Like when the 49ers lose, it bums me out, all those things. When they win, I want to be excited. But, ever since I started this show and having this platform, I really try to be meticulous about my thoughts. I try not to be emotional about them. It's not the easiest thing to do, but, that's what I try to bring to the table. And especially if I have time to sit back and, write down the topics that we're going to cover and those types of things, it makes it a little bit easier. But I really appreciate that, man. I think a lot of people don't appreciate it. Obviously, some people do. And I appreciate that you're one of them.
Well, I remember the good days. You know what I mean? Montana, young, and this kid, Brock, is giving me that vibe. You know what I mean? He's giving me the old day vibes, and I'm here for it. You know what I mean? Let's ride it as long as he can keep going. And the whole quarterback controversy, him and Trey are going to make each other even more better. I'm a Trey fan. I want to see this kid play. but let's ride Brock as long as it can go.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. I think we got a delay. So here's what I'm going to do, Twisted Ninja. I'm gonna remove you. You can hang out backstage and listen to what I say here. But it's kind of the delay. I'm getting feedback, and then there's a delay. So I apologize, brother. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, that's exactly where we're at, man. Is this year it's Purdy. It's all Purdy. So let's ride that. Like let's worry about next year. For right now, it's Brock Purdy. It's his team. Let's see how far he can take it. And if he can take it to a Super Bowl, it's funny. I've got a guy backstage whose name is Jimmy G, which I love, by the way. But I always said this about Jimmy Garoppolo. People are like, "Oh, you hate Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't stand him. Why do you hate him so much?" And my thought with Jimmy is like, I just don't think he's ever going to win us a Super Bowl. I just don't think he's that quarterback. However, I said many times that if he did bring number 6, put a damn statue outside of Levi of Jimmy Garoppolo and give him a lifetime contract. That's where I'm at. And I just want to get number 6. I don't care how it happens. The team is talented enough to do it. I like what Brock Purdy's doing. I love his moxie. I think he's a gamer. I think he's intelligent. I think he has a lot of little things that he does really well. And I think it can be enough to win a Super Bowl. And that's all I'm worried about right now. Like, let's win this Super Bowl, and then let's worry about next year. Or if they don't win a Super Bowl, then we'll worry about next year. As soon as the offseason starts, show 2, like show 1 is going to be like licking our wounds, getting over it, or celebrating the Super Bowl victory. Hopefully it's number 2. And then after that, we're into the offseason. We're going to talk about everything under the sun. And I'm sure the Trey Purdy conversation is going to happen all offseason long. Let's let it happen then. But for right now, it's Brock Purdy. We're all behind him. Hopefully we're all behind him. And that's where we're at with it, man. So I agree with you. And, I get it. I understand why he's giving you some of the vibes that you might get from Joe Montana, because Joe Montana didn't have the strongest arm. Joe Montana was mobile. Joe Montana was precise. I see a lot of those same things in Brock. I totally understand where you would get that from. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. Listen, if Purdy, now I'll switch it. If Purdy gets the statue, by all means, man, just get number 6. That's all I care about. You know what's funny is, and Jimmy G, I'll get to you in a second. What's funny is you have these Facebook memories that come up, and it's like, hey, on this date 7 years ago, or this date 10 years ago, this is what happened. And when we get into the playoffs, those memories pop into my timeline. It's like, on this day 6 years ago, you were crying about losing to Seattle, or whatever it was. And my profile picture through all those playoff runs with Harbaugh was like quest for six. And I haven't done that in a while. It's like, okay, at this point, we get it. We're on a quest for 6. But can we like turn that into quest for 7 next year? After this year and they go win a Super Bowl, can we make it quest for 7? I know it doesn't have the same ring, but kind of tired of this quest for 6 thing. It's been a long time. And I fortunately am old enough to remember the last Super Bowl. A lot of you who watch this channel and watch the 49ers and are diehard fans, you didn't get to see any of those Super Bowls. So I feel bad for y'all because you haven't seen anything from this great 49ers franchise as far as winning Super Bowls. I want one for y'all as bad as I want one for me. So I think this is the year. I think this is the year that they got to go get it. You know, maybe there's a lot of pressure to get it done, but I just feel like more than ever, the NFC is so wide open. And the AFC is going to be tough. Don't get me wrong. I think the 49ers, regardless of who they play in the Super Bowl, are probably going to be underdogs. I don't think they'll be big underdogs. I think rightfully so. I could see them being underdogs. However, I think they can overcome that. I really do. I think this is the year that they can get it done. I have such a good feeling about it. So we'll see. All right, let's see what Jimmy G has to say. I'm going to ask him about his injury, see how he's doing. What's up, Jimmy G? Oh, Jimmy G going once.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, man. What's up?
What's up, man? Yeah, my name is actually Jimmy G. Like, my last name starts with a G. It's spelled the same and everything, but what's up?
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I want to say, what a season we've had.
Crazy.
Nothing
crazy,
but
bro.
straight content. from the Niners. They never disappoint. Started off losing to the Bears. Then we had the injury. Jimmy Garoppolo comes in. And then Brock Purdy, baby. It's been a crazy season.
One of the craziest we've had in a long time, brother. Like, really, when you sit down and you think about this season, the ups and downs, the injuries, the roller coaster of quarterback play, the trade for CMC. I mean, gosh, it seems like it's all coming together. It really does. It seems like one of those magical seasons for sure.
The trade for CMC was like a dream. Like, I never thought the Niners would ever pull the trigger on something like that.
Right.
But I want to say, what you're saying about Garoppolo, definitely thankful for Garoppolo. Like, he came in, brought the Niners back to winning, and got to be thankful for that. Like, we had Brian Hoyer, CJ Beathard, and then Jimmy Garoppolo came in and started making us win, you know? So everyone's got to be thankful for Garoppolo. Even though I agree with you, I don't think he could win a Super Bowl for us. He had his chance. He missed the one throw, but definitely thankful for Garoppolo.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't hate Garoppolo. I just think it's been time to move on from him for a couple years. And I think, the things that I've said about Garoppolo, saying he's a top, he's a starting quarterback in this league, no doubt, but he's in that tier where you're probably actively trying to replace him. I think all those things are fair to say about Jimmy. And it's crazy because if they had somehow won that Super Bowl, if the fourth quarter doesn't happen, they're able to win that Super Bowl, the whole history of Jimmy Garoppolo is completely different. He's probably starting quarterback. They don't draft Trey Lance. Like, there's a lot of things that could have changed. Unfortunately for him, it didn't go that way. I wish him the best on his next team. I'm happy that they got Brock Purdy and that they've got Trey Lance and they're able to move on because I think it's time. But overall, you're right. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo compared to some of those other guys they had, certainly an upgrade is putting it nicely because he's a major upgrade over those guys.
Definitely. And I'm from Iowa too, so I've been to three Brock Purdy games at Iowa State, and I could just tell he's a gamer. And when we drafted him, I was like, he's definitely making the team. Like, I didn't think he'd start and do all this great stuff, but he's a gamer.
Yeah, I think what's crazy is I think Brock Purdy caught everybody by surprise. I mean, like I said, I've got messages going back a couple years saying that I liked Brock Purdy. I thought he could be a pretty good player in this league. You saw him up close and personal multiple times. Yeah. You liked what you saw. But to say that anybody knew that this was coming, especially this early, is like, I don't think anybody saw this coming. And it's awesome. I mean, this is exactly what they needed. This is the injection that they needed from the quarterback position, for sure.
Yep. You know what's also crazy? I went to the Iowa State game when they played Baylor, where they played against Jalen Hurd.
Yeah.
And I was like, that guy's pretty good too. Like, he was running the ball for them like a running back. I was like, damn, that dude's tall. He's fast. I didn't realize until we drafted him that I watched that game and he was playing there too. But I want to say the Niners got to come out aggressive, like the Baylor, like Georgia last night. What the coach said? Did you hear what the coach said? Like his pregame, like to be.
I didn't know. I didn't. It's funny. I actually didn't get to watch that game. I sat down to watch it like, I don't know, 5 minutes or so left in the second quarter, and it was like already this major blowout. I'm like, oh well, there goes that.
Yeah, the coach is like, we just got to be aggressive. We're gonna be out there hunting, and that's definitely what they did, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, the 49ers got to be in that same mindset. I like where your head's at.
Yeah, I hope they just come out hot. But what I also wanted to say is Niners, like, what's different about Brock Purdy and Garoppolo, like, I feel like that with Garoppolo, they came out hot in the first drive. They were good. And then after the second half, they'd fall off. But with Purdy, they'll come out kind of slower, but the second half is where they get hot and it actually matters.
Yeah, absolutely. At 100%. And, the other thing, too, about the 49ers is they're finishing drives. That's the biggest thing because the 49ers for the last couple of years have struggled in the red zone. They improved a little bit. I think it was last year they had improved over the last couple of years, but this year it just seems like a whole different animal, especially with Purdy in the game. They're figuring out how to score points, score touchdowns once they're getting down there, and that is something that, I mean, that makes all the difference in the world in playing winning football.
It's different when you're not kicking field goals and touchdowns.
What Steve Young, I'll never forget his quote, and I'll throw it up on Twitter every once in a while when the 49ers go through a spell where they kick a few field goals. But he said, every time you kick a field goal, you're one step closer to losing. And that was Steve Young, and I agree with him completely.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the last thing I'll say is I want to see Geno Smith flustered like the last game. I want to see the defense swarming him. He just flustered. I want to see that Seahawks just all flustered and Niners just dominate.
100%, bro. And I think they can do it. And I don't trust Geno. And it's funny because Seattle, their fans, and you'll hear it when we go behind enemy lines, they trust Geno. And the last time I did a show with the Seattle content creator that I'll be on with Thursday, I said, you guys are in a really good position to go out and get your future quarterback. And everybody in the chat's like, no, we trust in Geno. And they cooked me in the comments for a little bit. Okay, that's fine. You could trust him. I wonder if that's changed at all over the last couple of weeks, or if they still believe in Geno wholeheartedly. It's interesting because the way they talk about Geno is very similar to the way that 49er fans talked about Jimmy Garoppolo and throwing up some of the numbers they did to try to defend him for all this time and thinking he was better than what he probably was. That's what I'm hearing from Seahawks fans when it comes to Geno Smith. So I'm curious to see what they do with Geno and what they do with that draft pick this offseason.
Interesting. I don't know if you got another person lined up, but thank you.
Yes, sir, Jimmy G. You have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Later. All right, let's see. Let me get to this super chat. Here's the order. I got Chase, I got Keltz, and I got Eric. CB Niner says, I was 5 during the last Super Bowl win. Thanks for the empathy, Jesse. I don't care who wins under center either. Just get us the W and they can have a statue. Yes, that's exactly where I'm at with it. And I get it. You were 5. You don't remember that. My first memory as a 49er fan was around the age of 6. So if you were 5, you might remember little snippets from that time frame, but I can promise you don't remember that game and you don't remember that season, not the way that you want to. So many, many years later, if they get it, you'll always remember it. You will always remember it. All right, Chase, I'm coming to you. I don't know if are you in a good spot? Thumbs up. Chase, thumbs up. You in a good spot? Maybe not. All right, we'll try it. We'll see where Chase is at. He looked like he was on the move there. So what's up, Chase?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. What's
up, man? Hey, just to let you know, I'm pretty impressed, man. Not many people pronounce my name right, believe it or not.
Really? This one seems pretty easy. So not everybody can see you here on screen. It's Chase, but it's Chayce. I think that one's pretty easy. What do they call you? Like Chasey or?
Yeah, that's it, dude. Chasey. I've even heard Chance. It's like there's definitely not an N in there, but I don't know.
I got it. All right. Well, I appreciate
anyways,
that
man,
you're
I'll
impressed.
make it quick,
I'm unimpressed with everybody that calls you Chasey. Oh no, he froze. No, we lost him. All right. Well, Chase, you call back in. I'll give you your spot. We're gonna go to Keltz. I don't know how anybody can call him Chance or Chasey. That one looked pretty obvious to me, but he obviously gets it a lot. So either way. What's up, Keltz?
What up, man? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing so good, man. How you been?
I'm well, man. I am good, man. Hey, he heard Chasey and he was out. He was gone. He was like, I done heard it for the last time. Hey,
yeah.
Man. Hey, I was kicked back. I was just kicking back, man. And I seen the hat and I had to come on, man. That's 2 times today where I seen the camouflage and I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop on. I was just going to check your show out for a minute. But, man, I wanted to say just what's up to you, man. It's been a long time. So, what's up, Jesse? Good to see you. Good to hear you and talk to you for a moment. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that I am lightweight concerned with,
Okay.
and I typically don't talk about stuff I'm concerned with too much. Typically right now there's a lot to be juiced up about, in my opinion, with the 49ers. I'm sure we can all agree on that. But so I was thinking about the deep ball, and then I was also thinking about the interior offensive line. But then more than some of the obvious things, I think one of the biggest things I'm worried about is Kyle reverting back, in crucial moments. I'm kind of worried to I'm just I or I'm hopeful. I'm more hopeful that he doesn't kind of revert back, like, and just keep that trust in Brock. Like everything he's been doing with Brock, just stay there. Just keep it all gas. Just stay in that lane. So that's just one of my biggest things. I just hope when the lights get real bright, that we just don't see him kind of tuck it in and curl back into, maybe things that we've seen with Jimmy Garoppolo in the past. So that's one of my things, yeah, that I'm kind of looking for, and I'm sure, if he does really well in his first playoff game, Purdy, it's just another step. It's another check mark because he's checked every single one that I've seen so far. And I think if he checks that versus Seattle, I think it's all gas, man, and I'm just super juiced. What a season to be a part of.
Yeah, you're right, man. And that's an interesting thing. I think fortunately for 49er fans, we're not going to have to worry about that, at least for the first couple games. I could see that to start to show up maybe in an NFC championship where the game gets a little bit tighter. And, I think at some point it's feasible to think, not because Brock's playing bad or I expect him to play bad, but there's going to be a game where he's maybe not firing, at least maybe not early in a game. And I am curious to see how Shanahan handles that. Does he turtle up and get into his shell, or does he trust Brock as much as we think he should? I hope that he does what you're saying and he just goes with Brock, rolls with it, allows him to keep firing, allows him to go out and make plays and just be who he is. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. Brock has the utmost confidence in himself. And if
Oh yeah.
anybody knows anything about Brock Purdy, they're seeing it now in a 49er uniform, but this is something that I could have told you 2 years ago. Kid is uber confident. He always has been, and he always will be. If he struggles, I don't think he's going to be gun shy. Now, if Kyle gets gun shy with him, then that's a Kyle problem. So we'll see how that situation plays out if it does come to fruition. I would imagine that at some point it could throughout these playoffs. I just don't think it's going to be against Seattle. So I don't think we have to worry about it against Seattle. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it against Minnesota. I think it's the NFC Championship if they face the Eagles, maybe Dallas. I could see a scenario like that. And then really the Super Bowl is where you're going to see maybe a situation like that happen, and not necessarily throwing picks or anything, but he's just not on. The offense isn't moving. The offense isn't clicking. Maybe they get down a score early. I'd be curious to see what he starts to do in those scenarios. And I hope that he does trust Brock. I really do. Because I think that is the only way that they can win is if they play complementary football, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be dictated by the defensive line, by the opposition. If he's getting and he's already shown so far that he can manipulate the pocket and get away and make the smart moves, throw the ball away and whatnot. But when you're facing tougher opponents, like the Eagles, I don't think I'm too worried about any other defense, as far as that defensive line goes. So the Eagles probably got the best one, which is why, we're two of the best teams in the NFL. So, yeah, man, I just wanted to say that. And then on top of it, I think D'Amico is going to be switching some stuff up when it comes to who Lenore is facing. Like we seen Lenore, who was it? Was it Devontae Adams versus the Raiders? Was he? I'm trying to think if he got beat by Devontae as well. But I know it seems like he's the bigger receivers are getting the best of him lightweight. So I think it's gonna sharpen up. I think D'Amico is gonna put these guys in better position to just succeed. Hufanga as well. I don't think he's gonna let him be guessing on certain plays. And utilize his instincts in the earlier downs and whatnot. I know you could get beat in any down, but those are things I'm looking for. Just the obvious, the deep ball, making sure. And on top of the worry about Shanahan, I truly believe he isn't gonna. I feel like he's I almost see it like how Steve Young, got the monkey off his back, even though I don't like that analogy and whatnot. But I feel like that's coming for Kyle. I feel like you're going to just see that weight come off his back. It's going to be Lombardi number freaking 6. But it's still going to be interesting to see when that pressure does come. Like I'm just, man, I've heard you talk multiple times about like a Joe Flacco type of playoff and just having that it factor. And it feels like Purdy got it, man. And we were hoping and wishing and praying that Jimmy would. And that's why a lot of us guys are so frustrated. We want to see number 6, man. And
For sure.
the guys who can really see it knew that probably wasn't going to happen with Jim. Just that it factor just wasn't there. Hey, he tried his heart out. He did what he was a true pro. But at the same time, it's a Brock Purdy time. And it's just a joy, man. One of the funnest times I can remember being a 49er fan. So I'm lit. I'm super lit, man.
Hey, listen, I'm completely with you, and I like your take about Lenore and some of these receivers, because when you look across the landscape of the NFC, I mean, this game you're going to have DK. You can run into an AJ Brown, you can run into a CD Lamb, you can run into a Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson. So some bigger body receiver. Jefferson doesn't necessarily fit that mold, but he's just elite anyways. But those other guys fit the big body mold that can get behind you as well and make you pay with speed. And I think that's where it gets interesting. Does he have Charvarius Ward travel? And that's what I would like to see is those big body guys. I want to see Ward on them and let Lenore take the smaller, maybe quicker, shiftier guys. That's what I would prefer to see, because I think that's probably where he's better suited. He's not necessarily the quickest guy, but I feel like those guys he can stick with because he's sticking with everybody. It's just he's getting high pointed in a lot of these situations.
Yep.
I think that's where he can excel or give him the best opportunity to excel. I agree with you. I think letting Charvarius Ward travel is going to be the key. That's something that I would like to see on those bigger body receivers, Kelts.
Absolutely. Hey, it's super reminiscent to Ambry Thomas last year. He was always in position.
Always.
But just a inch off of getting a deflection or an interception, and they would make great plays. And Ambry sucks. And it's like, hey, nah, he's in position. It's not like he's getting beat by 3 feet. Like he's right there, and I feel like Lenore's done amazing. He's just when you're going up against, some of the best in the world, and he's not one of the best in the world yet. Who knows if he ever gets there, just from a talent perspective and size wise and all that. But phenomenal job, man, by him at the same time. His growth, his tackling. I was rewatching a lot of the games today. And the last caller made a great point, field goals to touchdowns, because I seen it time and time again where we drove down the field and kicked a field goal. Versus the Chiefs, where we got the fumble, Jimmy throws the interception in the end zone. I've seen it in a lot of those earlier games where it's like after field goal, and it's depressing. It was depressing to watch, but then at the same time, I'm like, it's so great to see Brock, because going back, rewatching the season, I've done it a few times throughout the weeks, and it just shows the difference. Like you could just see the difference, the eye test, regardless of the stats looking similar and whatnot. And we got the real deal, man. I know it's a 5-game sample, and it, it's a new season. It all depends right now is the biggest thing.
100%.
So can he do it in the playoffs? Will he carry that confidence and that swagger and that X factor into the playoffs? And then, I'm not even going to get into Trey Lance or anything. I'm still huge on Trey Lance, by the way. I think he will get a shot, and who knows, maybe both could be great. Maybe only one of them will. I've tweeted it out before, and I rebuke the fact that both of them will not be great. But it is a possibility. I mean, realistically, anything can happen, but I just think it's tremendous, man, what we're seeing so far. I've never seen nothing like it. And I've done quite a bit of history, and I don't think I've ever even read anything on it. So it's just dope, man. It's hella cool.
Yeah, it definitely is, brother. Thanks for calling in, man. I got to get to these other guys. Good seeing your face, and let's talk next week, man. I'm going to do this again next week, so call in then too.
Heck yeah. Hey, same day?
Probably, yeah. I think too. Well, It might be Wednesday next week. We'll see.
I'll hit you up for sure, my man. Stay up, stay blessed. Yee.
I love Kelts, man. He's one of the better people in the community. Been rocking with him for a long time. He's been rocking with me for a long time. He's just a really, really good dude. All right, Chase, let's try it again, man. It looks like you're not mobile this time. Hopefully the Wi-Fi is good to go. All right, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? You got me?
I got you.
All right, cool. So what I was gonna say is, and I came into the show a little bit late. I'm sure you've talked about this a few times by now, but kind of want to talk about Brock Purdy, the hot topic right now, a little bit. I think that what I'm hearing a lot is that people are saying that he's basically a product of Kyle Shanahan's system, and he doesn't have to do much. He just has to not mess it up. And I'm not saying that he's out here playing like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but I think that he deserves a little bit more credit from what I'm seeing around as far as these talk shows and stuff like that. I think what he brings to the table that Jimmy Garoppolo didn't bring to the table, and the biggest thing is him actually throwing the ball down the field, man. Jimmy Garoppolo could have been a great quarterback if he wasn't so damn conservative. Great over the middle of the field. He was getting better this year as far as not throwing interceptions. I don't know if that was greasy or just something that he came to on his own.
I think that might have been CMC too.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah, man, I just think that Brock Purdy has a certain level of kind of like whatever you want to call it, swagger, calmness. He's going to chuck that thing down the field, and hopefully it doesn't come to bite us in the rear end in the playoffs. But I like his swagger, man. I like that little celebration he does after he throws a touchdown pass. I don't know really what he's doing there, but I just like the way he plays, man. He just seems, in his rookie year, he seems far more confident than Jimmy Garoppolo in his, 9th year?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And that's one thing that when we talk about Jimmy 2017 or pre-ACL, the numbers weren't amazing when they went on that 5-game win streak, but it was the confidence he brought into that team. If you remember, that team was so close to winning a lot of games that year. Once Jimmy got in, they were able to reel some off, and the numbers didn't look the best. But when you look at just who Jimmy was at that time, the confidence, the swagger, the willingness to take risks, completely different player. And in fact, even to start 2018, there was some rough patches there, no doubt about it. But that throw against the Minnesota Vikings to Pettis in the back of the end zone, everybody's got to remember that one. That was a big time throw from Jimmy Garoppolo. And then once the ACL injury happened, it's like that Jimmy was gone forever, and I think it compounded and got worse in the Super Bowl or after the Super Bowl when he missed that throw. I could see 2019, it would take him a while to get back. He was coming back from the ACL injury. But if they win the Super Bowl there, or he plays well and they lose the Super Bowl, I could see that swagger maybe coming back. But then it was like a big deal. Was he going to wear the knee brace? Was he not? He just didn't seem to be mobile. He was jittery in the pocket. He just wasn't the same guy. And I think you add the Super Bowl in with the torn ACL, and it took his confidence away. So, yes, I mean, we're seeing all that from Brock Purdy. And I think mentally, that is the biggest thing with quarterbacks. And right now, not just right now, like I said, Brock Purdy, and one of the things that I've liked about him for a long time now is he's very confident in who he is. He's not afraid. If he makes mistakes, he's going to remain confident. I have no doubt about Brock Purdy from a mental aspect. I think he's going to be fantastic and fine in that area.
Yeah, and I think that Kyle Shanahan, sometimes I love Kyle Shanahan as a coach. I think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL, but sometimes you just want him to give certain players a little bit more praise. It's almost like, come on, Kyle, just say something good about the kid. But I think what he's doing is just trying to keep him even keeled and not let his head get too big, because he does show some of that with the celebrations and stuff. Not that he's cocky, but he does have a certain swagger, and maybe Kyle Shanahan just trying to keep him down to earth. But yeah, man, sometimes in the press conferences, it's like, come on, like say something good about him. It's kind of like, yeah, he did some good things, did some bad things. It's like, dude, this guy's a rookie and he's out there playing. I don't want to get too carried away, but I'd say he's playing like a top 15 quarterback right now for sure. Like,
yeah. I mean, he's playing like a top 10 quarterback right now.
Yeah, but I think so too, man. I think so too. And I agree. I think that after the injury, Jimmy never was the same, but it's weird because it's not just his mobility, which he was kind of getting out of the pocket a few times this year. We saw a couple passes to CMC where he was able to move around, but it was just the unwillingness to throw deep. I mean, it's not like guys weren't open. I don't know if he wasn't seeing it, but you can go back and watch the film, and there was time and time again where people were open downfield. He just wouldn't pull the trigger. So it's exciting having a young quarterback that wants to make those throws. I think George Kittle should have a new best friend. I think it should be Brock Purdy because he's definitely revamped George Kittle's career. And I'm excited, man. We'll see what happens this Saturday. I think that we can run the table on them 3 times in a row. Given it's the NFL, anything could happen. But I'm excited, man. And I'm excited to see what this kid turns into. And I'm excited to see what happens with Jimmy next year. I wish him nothing but the best. I'm curious to see if he can have more success, if he can kind of sustain the same level of success that he had with the Niners. And I'm excited to see this quarterback battle between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. But I think right now, Brock Purdy's to lose.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's the only one that's healthy. And if they make a deep run and he's a big contributor in that, then certainly it's his to lose. And, you know, like I said, we'll talk about all that this offseason. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of conversation around it. But, you know, everything that we're seeing from Brock is fantastic. I think he can keep it going because mentally he's strong. And that's what you ultimately want. And right now he's got that. I think he's always had that. And I think he's going to keep that. So I'm confident in Brock Purdy. I'm confident in this team. And I think they can go out and get this for sure.
Yep. And then last thing, as far as the defense goes, obviously the secondary's been having some hiccups here and there, but I do think that a lot of them are really young. I mean, Gibson's not young. He's been in the league for a while now. Mooney league for a while now, but the 2 people in question are both young players. Diamador Lenore and Talanoa Hufanga, they're both young players. And so I think the veterans on this team, and I know Nick Bosa is young as well, but he plays like a veteran. I'd consider him a veteran at this point. I think that him and Armstead and the defensive line are going to have to ball out, man. I think that's the only way to kind of offset the trouble that we've been having in the secondary is to not give these quarterbacks the time to push the ball down the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a concern of mine. You know, I talked about how they lost the NFC Championship last year, how they lost the Super Bowl. They were getting outworked in those games. And those teams, those opponents and the Chiefs and the Rams were able to control the clock. That's not something the 49ers are used to. Well, the defensive line for the 49ers in both those games wore down. And as this postseason progresses, I'm curious to see if they can control the clock, keep those guys fresh off the field, and at what point, if at all, does it happen again where the defensive line wears down and somebody else has to come through and make a play? I hope we don't see it, but I think there's a possibility of that happening. So, you know, at that point, does the offense carry them? Does the secondary make a play? I don't know, but the defensive line relying on them to win all these games, we see that at some point they will wear down. They're not going to have their best game. And when that happens, how do the 49ers figure it out? Luckily for the San Francisco 49ers, I think they can run the ball efficiently. I think they can pass the ball efficiently. I think their secondary can be a little bit boom or bust, but if Talanoa Hufanga or Gibson or Ward goes out and gets a pick, you're not going to be shocked either. So they have different ways that they can go win these games now. And I think that's a big difference than what we've seen in the past couple of years.
Absolutely, man. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna let Eric Dane get on. He was cool and let me jump him in line when I lost connection earlier. So
absolutely.
Anyways, go Niners, man.
Later, Chase. All right, yeah. So here's the order. I like to give the order just in case you can't wait. Totally understand. We've got Eric, Rocky Mountain, Greg. You're gonna be third, and then Giannis. You're gonna close us out. Okay. All right. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here before we get over. What's up, CB Niners? Appreciate you for becoming a member. Anything else? Anything else? I think we're good. I don't think I missed anything. I see the Lions guys in here. They're saying they wish they could have played us. I agree. I think that would have been a lot of fun. It would have been nice to have a show with Rad and go over that. That would have been a lot of trash talk, a lot of fun, but just didn't come to fruition, man. Just not come to fruition. It's unfortunate. They played their hearts out, though. They gifted us Seattle. That's what I will say. So thank you to the Detroit Lions. We owe them a thank you. What's up, Eric?
Hey, what's up, Jesse? How are you?
Doing good, brother. How you been?
Good. So I don't know if Chase noticed, but backstage when I told him he could jump me in line, I called him Chance because I noticed he saying how like everyone messes his name up. So like part of it was I was just trying to be nice because he got disconnected, but also I was like, oh, here's an opportunity to just call him by the wrong name on purpose just to mess. So I don't know if he picked up on that, but yeah,
he probably did. That's pretty funny.
And he can go. So, but yeah, no, there was just two things I want to talk about. I'm glad you had the call-in show. That's not one of the two things. I'm just saying that. The first thing was about the specific opponent against the Seahawks. This game coming up this weekend. I'm not exactly looking past the Seahawks, but if they play this game 10 times, I think the 49ers win 10. Like, I think you got to go more than 10. You got to play 100 times in order for the Seahawks to win 1 out of 100, something like that. Because it's not just that the 49ers are a better team than the Seahawks, which they are, and they're healthier, but also they're a specifically bad matchup for the Seahawks. Like, this is really – this is not the team the Seahawks want to play. This is the worst possible matchup. Defensively, the Seahawks defense is one of the worst in the league at stopping the run. 49ers offense, one of the best in the league at running the ball. Kyle Shanahan loves scheming up those zone run plays. They have Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, and Jordan Mason. I like Jordan Mason. So the 49ers are going to run the ball all day long, and the Seahawks aren't really going to be able to do much about it. It's not a coincidence that when they played twice this year, 49ers beat them twice. That second game ended up only being a one-score game, but it was closer than that. I mean, it wasn't even that close. Like,
no.
The 49ers, it's not a coincidence. This is a really bad matchup for the Seahawks. Their defense is bad against the run. And also, a lot of people might not be aware of this. The Seahawks defense is one of the worst in the NFL at defending tight ends. They're one of the worst in the NFL against tight ends. So this weekend, look for George Kittle to have a big game. Look for Christian McCaffrey to have a big game. And I also expect Elijah Mitchell. I think Elijah Mitchell is going to get a lot more of those like runs up the middle. And then you get Christian McCaffrey when you hit him on like the passes and stuff, the screens, get him outside of the numbers. That's how I think it's going to play out. I think it's going to work good. I like Elijah Mitchell. I think he's going to be popping, 5-6 yards of carry up the middle. Like I said, Seahawks defense, one of the worst in the NFL at stopping the run, one of the worst in the NFL at stopping tight ends. Seahawks offense, they try to run the ball, but the 49ers defense is the best in the NFL at stopping the run. So that's not going to be that easy. And Geno Smith started off the year great. He's kind of tailing off a little bit. He's kind of reverting back into Geno Smith. So, like I said, I'm not really looking past the Seahawks, but I think, the 49ers have a very strong chance of winning this game. I put it well over 90% chance of winning this game. They're a better team, and the matchup is in their favor as well.
Yeah, listen, styles make matchups, and you usually talk about it in fighting, in boxing, but this is a scenario as well. And I think that's the other thing too, especially when the playoffs start. Seattle's going to be a little bit more used to it because they play us year in and year out. Unfortunately for them, the talent gap's just too much that they're not going to be able to get around it. To answer RA's question, yeah, Jordan Brooks, their middle linebacker, he's done for the year. Obviously, we know that Jamal Adams was already out for the year. So that's two big pieces on defense they're missing. But, most teams aren't going to know how to deal with San Francisco physically, and it's going to catch them by surprise, and it's going to be a problem for a lot of teams. Seattle is going to be used to that physicality, but the talent gap is too much that they're just not going to be able to overcome it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the second thing I want to talk about, I thought about this earlier when I was looking at the playoff bracket. And I was hoping, that's why another reason I'm glad you had the call-in show. I'm hoping by calling in tonight, I could speak this into existence.
Okay.
Because there's a possibility, some of these are more likely than others, but there's a possibility that this could end up being the 49ers revenge tour.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
First of all, we're starting off with the Seattle Seahawks. They've been a rival for the last 10 to 15 years, division rival. They've been a really good team. 49ers have had, I think, more than one NFC championship game lost to the Seahawks.
Just the one they lost.
Well,
NFC
okay.
Championship.
But there have been multiple playoff games. They play twice a year. So the Seahawks are definitely a strong rival. So that would be the beginning of the revenge tour.
I agree. Okay.
If the Giants beat the Vikings and the Cowboys beat the Bucks, the 49ers get the Cowboys in round 2. Okay. Cowboys were a big rival in the 90s. The 49ers definitely played them in some NFC championship games. And also just the brands. They're two of the biggest, most popular brands in the NFL. 49ers and Cowboys, really symbolic. You got 49ers with Actually, I think they both have 5 Super Bowl wins. So 2 of the most successful franchises of all time. And they, like I said, they've played multiple times in the playoffs. That's another rivalry right there. So yeah, possibility you can go Seahawks, then Cowboys, and then on the other side would be Giants and the Eagles. If the Giants beat the Eagles, and this is where it gets a little less likely, but in that scenario, you'd have the Giants in the NFC Championship game. Giants have been a big time rival, the 49ers, maybe not so much in the last 10 years. But if you go back to the Jim Harbaugh years and before that, going back into the 90s and the late 80s and stuff, the Giants have always been a big time rival, the 49ers in the playoffs. They had, I still remember one of the years the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game.
Don't talk. Do not bring up his name. Don't bring up his name. Don't do it.
No, and the punt, the muff punt.
Yeah, no. Okay, we get it. Nobody wants to relive it right now.
Believe me, I'm not pleased with it either. But that's the point. You can get revenge against the Seahawks, then you can get revenge against the Cowboys, then possibility of getting revenge against the Giants in the NFC Championship game, and then you go to the Super Bowl. And who were the only 2 teams who have ever beaten the 49ers in the Super Bowl?
Chiefs, Ravens.
Yes, and they're both in the playoffs in the AFC. Now,
right.
One getting to the Super Bowl, I would say, is a little bit more likely than the other. I think we all know which one. But, the Ravens, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with Lamar Jackson. I'm not really, dialed in with the Ravens stuff. But I've seen some stuff where, people don't know if he's playing. Is he really injured? Or is this, a contract thing? Is he, trying to say, hey, well, you want to try the playoffs without me just to show them, this is why you need to give me the contract? But if he decides that he wants to play and he wants to show out in order to, earn his new contract, maybe the Ravens could win some playoff games. So, the point is that both them and the Chiefs are in the playoffs. There's a possibility you could get the 49ers revenge tour starting off with the Seahawks, going into the Cowboys, then Giants in the NFC Championship game, and then Ravens, but more likely the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And then if they were to win that, I mean, that would be not only, because that would be beyond just winning any old championship. If you get revenge against all these teams that have been your rivals in the past and on the way to winning the Super Bowl, I think that'd be incredible. And either way, they're going to start off with 1 against the Seahawks. I think the Chiefs are a really good team. There's a strong chance they might be in the Super Bowl. Cowboys could certainly beat the Bucks next week, in which case they would play the 49ers. Well, no, unless the Vikings win, then they do.
Yeah, if the Vikings win, they're playing the Vikings no matter what. But they could easily lose too. They could easily lose to the Giants. I could see that scenario.
Yeah, the Vikings won. They're 10-0 in one-score games this year.
Right.
That's 10 games that you could lose if the other team scores 1 more touchdown. So,
I agree. All right, Eric, great call. As always, brother, I appreciate it. I agree with you. And the 49ers have that revenge tour. Well, they're on 5.0 now, but that's a way to finish it off, right? You finally go through all the teams that have kind of been the thorn in your side for so many years. I think that's a great way to do it, brother. You have a good one, all right?
All right, thanks. You too. Have a good night.
Later. All right, Rocky Mountain, we're going to you. What's up, brother? How are you?
How's it going, bro?
It's going good, man. How you been?
I've been good, man. I hope you had a good holiday season and New Year's and all that, man.
Absolutely, man. I definitely did. What about you?
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. We went and saw my wife's family, so it was good.
Nice. Good.
We just a couple things. I keep hearing every channel I've listened to, and then a lot of the guys on here as well, just kind of looking past Seattle a little bit, and it's easy to do. It seems like we've got their number this year, but I don't want to do that. I think we've done that a few times this season. We look past Chicago. We look past Denver, right? We look past Atlanta. And we're on this 10-game winning streak. I know that we're playing with our hair on fire and looking great, but none of those teams were top tier teams. Even the best team that we beat, which was the Chargers, was missing all their offensive weapons essentially. So and then the last time we played Seattle, I know Brock was a little bit injured and all that, but they kind of seemed like they found the remedy there, a little bit too little too late, and the way that the secondary's kind of given up some plays and and all that. It's. I don't think it's smart to just look past them. Maybe I don't know. Maybe a quick feedback from you here, but I don't know how you feel on that. But I feel like they definitely could have what it takes to, push us to the brink, if not even kind of, get a hold of us, especially with the power dynamic the way it is.
Man, I really want to respect them in this situation. It's interesting because you're right. I mean, as 49er fans, especially, we've had these games where we've really looked past the opponent. The 3 games that you mentioned certainly come into play here. But it's been so long since those games, and those games were before CMC was on this team. And you look at also the health across the board right now. Again, this is the healthiest they've been since week 1, really. Every big name dynamic player is back. They've added CMC. Brock Purdy's playing like a madman. I don't see it. I really don't. Now, what I do think is going to happen, I do think that they feel like they figured out something against Brock Purdy. I believe that. I don't think they have, but I think they believe that. I think that they're going to throw the kitchen sink at him. I think they're going to try to disguise coverages. I think Quandre Diggs is going to be a big part of that. And I could see them, possibly picking Purdy off in this game. But
Yeah.
I think ultimately Kyle Shanahan and Purdy will adjust if they start out slow or have some hiccups throughout the game. And I just think when push comes to shove, man, the talent is too much for Seattle. And I think the home game, playoffs, I can't see a scenario where they have a letdown. Early in the season, you can get caught by some of these teams. But when you got a kid in Purdy who this is his first time in the playoffs, he's going to be on fire. You got CMC who this is the reason he's here. He was brought here for these moments. He wants to be in these big games. The 49ers
He hadn't
want
been
him
there
in these
before.
big games.
He's going to have to show the world now.
Yeah, I think this is it. And I think the 49ers are just going to be too much, man, and they're going to steamroll Seattle. That's just my opinion.
I think we are too, but I just, I don't want to look past them at all, and I hope
That's
the
fair.
team's not. I'm trying to just send those vibes mentally over there to them right now, bro. Like, don't look past this one. But Vegas does have us as like a 10-point favorite right now. There's a reason those guys do that.
Point spread
That's
for
a
the
big
playoffs.
point spread, and
Yeah.
the NFL did not add this extra wild card team for matchups. They add that for money. Let's be 100 on that. So
Yes. So they can get a Monday night playoff game in the wild card is why they did it.
Exactly. But a couple things real quick. Really quick. When we played the Chiefs, you could see guys are just running easy slants, right? Maybe they're getting like a dig route 10 yards in, 12 yards in, and they're hitting them, boom, back to back to back to back, and we can't do anything to stop it. It does wear me when we get to those points, but on the other hand, we on our side of the football, we could not do the same. The easy shit was hard. We couldn't make the slant plays consistently even. We couldn't throw the 15, 12-yard dig. We couldn't hit the post. And, that now that we got Purdy, it seems like, we're doing those things. So, maybe we can keep up, and that kind of builds into my next point is, Kyle's kind of shown this ability to learn and grow as, the team has progressed. Even going back to Atlanta, when he ended up giving up the Falcons Super Bowl there to the Patriots, what he could not control the defense. He wasn't he was just offensive coordinator, not the head coach. And so, now he's a defensive guy, right? First couple of seasons with us, we're getting dog walked all the time. We're getting our asses whooped. Now we start getting a little bit closer in those games. And then we get Jimmy and things kind of turn around for us, but we're hurt. Injuries are decimating us left and right. And then Kyle kind of learns, okay, depth is like the most important thing with the team. So now our teams are drafted differently. We have higher quality players all throughout the roster. And then you get you're a super run heavy offense, and we can't beat teams when they're throwing against us. And now we're fucking throwing the ball. I think and then he kind of realizes you have to have a higher level quarterback as well. So I just want to say that to say, everything with this team has been incremental with Kyle. And I think that, maybe this is the year that he kind of takes that last step, and walks into the promised land. He's been there twice now. He was on the fucking edge of getting that last one, and everybody knows this last 10 minutes, we just kind of fell apart, so I don't want to say too much because I don't want to jinx us, and we have a rookie ass quarterback. But if we, if he can get there this year, maybe he takes that step this time. So
Yeah, Rocky, I'm hoping so. And two things that can't happen from Kyle is they can't lose in round one, and they cannot under any circumstances be in a situation where they have a 10-point lead and blow it again. Those two things cannot happen, because if either of those things happen, I don't know how you make the excuse for Kyle. It
I don't
can't.
either.
It can't happen this year. I'm not saying that they have to win a Super Bowl, or that they're going to fire Kyle or any of those things. But if you lose to Seattle, or you blow a 10-point lead at any point and lose a game, at some point it's like, this is just who you are, right? So
I'm going to take it one step further. One step further, really quick. I know you got to get another guy on. If we don't win one playoff game this season, then I think we really need to start considering what we're going to do after next season if shit doesn't go our way. Because we did spend 3 firsts. That's a fireable offense in most cases on a guy that's not working out so far. And now I know we found a diamond in the rough with Brock now. But that still doesn't, if he doesn't win playoff games, and that does not save anybody, I don't think, and like I said in my rant epically after the Denver game, I'd rather keep John Lynch than Kyle at this point if shit does not, work out. And maybe it doesn't work out, maybe that's not an option, but I feel like, we're going to have to start making those kind of decisions pretty soon. Like, it's nut cutting time in my mind. I don't know how you feel about that, but he's a great guy and he's done a lot for this team, but eventually you got to fucking take us to the promised land, or we got to find who can.
I agree. All right, brother. I'm gonna remove you. I'll finish my thought on that, and then I'm gonna get to Greg. I think the two scenarios that I laid out, I don't think either are gonna happen. So I don't think we're gonna get to that point again. I don't think Kyle has to win a Super Bowl this year. I don't want to say that, but this team is about as primed as it could be. And I think the NFL is about as wide open as it could be. So if they don't get it this year, I'm hard pressed to figure out when or where it's going to come. I will say that. However, if they lose in round one, completely unacceptable. We cannot accept that as a fan base. There is no way they should lose this game to Seattle. And I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to win handily. And we cannot accept them getting far in the playoffs, having a 10-point lead again in the fourth quarter and blowing it. Those two things cannot happen. Those two things are 100% utterly unacceptable. I don't think the chances of it happening again are high, but I'm just throwing it out there now in case it does. Those are the two scenarios as 49er fans that we should not accept. First round exit, blowing a 10-point lead. Outside of that, I think everything's good to go. I think we should praise Kyle and see where it goes in the future. But those are the two things that they must avoid. What's up, Greg? Thank you for being patient, man.
Oh, no worries, bro. No worries. Can you hear me?
I got you.
All right. So I got a couple things. First thing is why I don't understand why everybody's still in love with Jimmy G. I don't get it. We obviously have two rookies that are actually playing at a high level than if you take this year out, right? Take this year out, the two rookies are playing at a higher level than Jimmy G has played over the last 4 years. So I don't get it. I try to understand. I try to reason, but I can't get it because he was playing like a rookie, and we have a rookie who's playing better than he did the last 4 years. And so I just don't. I don't get. Maybe
I feel. You know what, Greg? I feel like that light is starting to dim quite a bit, and I think the 49ers are going to make it minimum to an NFC Championship game this year. And as long as that happens, it's like, okay, what is there to say? Because if they lose in the first round or they lose in the second round, then they can still hold on to, well, Jimmy brought us, here, and we went to the Super Bowl and then the NFC Championship and all these other things. But if the 49ers make it to an NFC Championship or better, especially if they win a Super Bowl, then there's nothing. There's nothing there. But I feel like that light is really starting to blow out. I think people are starting to really understand what it was with Jimmy, and not a knock against him, but they've been looking to replace him now for a few years. They've been looking into it. They decided not to after 2019. They decided to when they drafted Trey Lance. And I think we're at that tipping point. And I think the fan base, now that they've seen it from another quarterback that is doing it at a level as good or better than he ever has, I think that light is getting really, really dim, to say the least.
Okay. Hey, and another question I would have for you is you're the resident Purdy expert. So when I was kind of looking through his schedule when he played in college, but he played so many games. What's the most amount of points that he scored? Because I feel like he gets, you can tell he gets angry when he has to give a field goal. He's mad because he has to get off the field. And so I just wonder, do you know, like, has he scored a 50-pointer in the college?
I don't. I really don't. You know, the thing is about Brock Purdy that's for me is I watched him like 3 games before they played Oregon in the bowl game in 2021 timeframe, 2020-2021 season. And I just fell in love with the way that he played. I was just strictly watching him. And then, you know, they beat Oregon in the bowl game. I'm an Oregon guy, so he didn't play his best game there, but he played, you know, he played good enough for them to win. And I just really liked what I saw from Brock Purdy. And then I got my hands on some All-22. I was hoping he was going to come out. He ended up staying, and, you know, his draft stock dropped quite a bit. But no, I don't know the answer to that question. I got to imagine that they would have put up a 50 burger at some point or close to it, because you got to remember they had Breece Hall as well. So
yeah, I saw one game he scored like 46. And I was just thinking, I didn't know if it didn't seem like that was the average. 30s-ish were what they scored, it seemed. But like I said, he plays so much, so it's hard to go through all those years. And so, and I actually do live up here north of Seattle. And so these guys love Geno. They love him. I don't know why, but they love. Actually, my theory is that since Russ burned him, Geno stayed there, and he embraced the city, and the city just fell in love with him. But I
think that, and also they've watched the way that Russ played this year, and Geno clearly outplayed Russ. True. I don't think there's a debate there. So they're looking at it saying, okay, he was able to come in, play better than Russ, or at least Russ is now, and we got all these picks. Like, that's good enough for us, I think, is where they're at.
And so the one other thing I want to tell everybody, and that I keep hearing over and over and over, and I hear it on all these other channels too, stop being scared of Seattle. I want everybody to know, stop being scared of Seattle. This is back to 49er football, where we just run over people. And I personally think they're going to run him. They're going to score 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns in the first half. I really think they're going to just blow them out. And then we're going to rest our players. The Seahawks, their defense is hurting. They're tired. They've overachieved, right? They've done more than they said they were going to do. So I think we're going to blow them out. So I'm pretty excited. And we got all these weapons, man. We got so many weapons. There's not enough ball to go around. So when Debo gets his chance, he might only get 2 or 3 carries, right?
Right.
You only going to get the ball 3 or 4 times. So that's like a precious thing. So these guys are going to be playing at a high level. Their focus, oh my goodness, they're going to blow them out. I'm so, and I actually think the offense is going to actually carry. This is my propheticness, as I think the offense is going to actually carry us through this playoff. I just got that feeling. I think Kyle's going to be in his bag. He's got a quarterback that does what he tells him to do. Hey, this guy's going to be open. If he's not open, CMC, right? Jimmy wouldn't take those deep shots. Now we have a quarterback who actually will take those deep shots. I think Kyle's just going to be creating. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about this playoffs. I like the layout the guy earlier said about going through all the revenge tour, going through all these old teams that we were able to beat back in the day. And so, I'm pretty excited about that. But my last question for you is, how's your other channel going? How's it growing?
It's slow, right? We're putting out basically like 3 videos a week. So what we're doing is, Rad and I are getting together. We are, we're basically recording for like 45 minutes, and then we're clipping it up and putting it out in segments. It's interesting because the first 3 videos did really well. We got the first 3 videos did like 2,000 views, 800 views, and 3,000 views. And then the second set of 3 were really low. It was like 300, 195 or something like that. So
Were you like
interesting.
talking about the Patriots or something? I didn't watch that one, so nobody.
Yeah,
watched
it's just trying to figure out the algorithm. YouTube's a game; it really is. Titles and thumbnails matter a lot. Making sure that the title's right to catch an eye. So you just really got to figure that out, and it worked really well for us for the first set of videos. Second set, not so much. So it'll grow, it'll come. I mean, I think this off season, we're gonna obviously this is our main focus, but we have the time to put into that second channel, and I think we can grow that pretty quick in the off season as well.
You should put it in the description so we can go see it.
I know you're right. You're right. You know what? I should. If you search Last Second Sports 2 TWO, it'll come up.
Right.
But yeah,
I'm subscribed. I'm subscribed. I just wanted to help you grow your
no. Listen, Greg, I appreciate it. The thing is I definitely want to promote it, because if there's people that really like listening to myself or Rad, then I think you'll enjoy that second channel. But I also don't want to force it down people's, necks and say, hey, here's the second channel, promote. I just,
Right.
I don't want to go too hard one way or the other, but I hear you. I hear you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all the hard work you guys put into it, and you can tell. So, hey, thanks, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. You have a good one. And let's talk next week. Niner victory. I got you.
Sounds good. All
right, Greg, have a good one. I think Greg's right. We got to stop being worried about Seattle. I really do. I think Seattle is they're just not the boogeyman anymore. Russell Wilson was the boogeyman. It wasn't Seattle. Russell Wilson was the boogeyman. He proved it again against all odds this year, somehow against us, even though they had no business winning that game. They were a far inferior team. But him with Seattle, especially, and Pete Carroll, that was the boogeyman. And we've seen this year that they are no longer that, no doubt about it. So let me get to these super chats, and then Giannis, we'll go with you, brother. Ari Fish says, is there a favorable job for D'Amico? Worst thing he could do would be to settle at this point. Yeah, well, I would say anybody that's not the Texans would be pretty favorable. I would say probably not the Cardinals either. There's just not a lot of talent over there. Not anymore. Hopkins wants out. I think if he steers clear of those teams, I think the Broncos would be a favorable job for him. I think Carolina, those are two pretty set defenses, so he can go to work with them. I mean, I don't know who else is fully available, but let's avoid the Texans and let's avoid the Cardinals, and I think he'll be okay. I want to see him do well. I really like D'Amico a lot. So if he does leave, and I assume he will, just not those two teams. 49ers Faithful says, what are we talking about here? Seabirds, without Lumen referees, they are nuttin'. We will win by at least 17 plus. Hey, then you are taking the 49ers to cover, my friend. Go win you some money. I agree, though. I think that they're going to win this game going away. JPZ says, I feel like the O-line looks better with Brock at quarterback due to decision-making, quick release. Even McGlinchey looks better. Your thoughts? I think the offensive... Well, first of all, whenever you have a quarterback that can move, he makes the offensive line look better. I think Jimmy was decisive a lot of the time. I think he had a quick release. It's just when he was forced to get out of that first read is when he would, get a little antsy in the pocket. I think CMC remedied that a lot for Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Purdy's just better and more mobile and more fleet of foot. So I think he's definitely helping for sure. I don't know. I don't know how somebody who's mobile and is able to get out of some of these sacks and do that on their own with free rushers barreling down his face. I don't know how that doesn't make the offensive line look better. And I think it gives him more confidence. McGlinchey himself said that Brock Purdy's brought the offense to a new level. So I would say, even McGlinchey looks better. Well, McGlinchey himself said that he believes in Brock Purdy quite a bit. So I think there's something to that for sure. All right, let's see if Giannis is around. Giannis, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay, hey. So, Jesse, I had a lot of thoughts for you, but a lot of them are kind of like big picture, so I'm going to keep that for the off season.
Okay.
And we can just discuss the team right now. Okay.
Okay.
So, I don't know how much you're into advanced analytics, Jesse, but I really like them. I like the eye test, but I also like to see how numbers match up with the eye test and vice versa. So
I
I
agree.
try to filter out. I wanted to see, Jimmy G's performance with CMC. I checked his performances with CMC, and I checked Brock Purdy with CMC. And when I looked at those numbers and I compared them, they were fairly similar, Jesse, except in the red zone. They were vastly different in the red zone. I don't know if you've seen this, but Brock Purdy has a 75% completion percentage in the red zone, and Jimmy G had 60%. That's the big difference in the red zone, where you don't have many downs to score. So it's not like it's like the overall, like the field. So I feel like that has been the biggest difference between the two. And obviously you just mentioned it, which is the mobility to get out of some negative situation, etc. So I would say, but I do feel like it does reflect very badly on Jimmy G, Jesse, that George Kittle was on this team, and for 3 years he was completely anonymous. And for those 3 years, Jimmy G was the quarterback largely. It's like, to me, that is a big indictment on you, because don't tell me that Kyle wasn't dialing up plays for him. He was. Jimmy G was probably not throwing it to him, because how many times, Jesse, do you remember Kittle getting the ball 20 yards downfield in the past 3 years?
It didn't happen. I mean, all of his big plays were him breaking tackles and making things happen. How many times did Jimmy G leave him hung out to dry and get his knees taken from him against the Cardinals?
Goodness me, I remember that. That was really scary. So to me, I feel like, I don't like our fan base, like most fan bases. I don't like big picture discussions when we're in the middle of the season. We have a goal to achieve. We can discuss all of this in the aftermath, and we have a whole off season. So I don't want to do that Brock Purdy big picture discussion. I don't want to do that. I want to discuss him right now and what he can do for this team right now. And what he can do for this team right now is distribute the ball the way he has done. Can you believe, Jesse, that we have seen some people complain that he hasn't been throwing in the fourth quarter because we've been leading? Can you believe that that's where we have gone to? Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. I do want to get back to the red zone real quick though, because from what I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Brock Purdy's, I believe, 13 of 17 in the red zone, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 rushing touchdown.
That's inside the 20, you mean? Or do you mean inside the 10 too?
No, 20, inside the 20, yep. So from that standpoint, once they get inside the 20, on only 17 attempts, he's thrown 6 touchdowns. He's completed 13 passes. He has a rushing touchdown. He does have the 1 interception, but
wasn't that in mop-up
overall,
duty?
He's playing phenomenal.
Wasn't that in mop-up duty, Jesse? Wasn't that against Kansas City?
That's exactly it. The interception was in mop-up duty. Yep.
Yeah. It was against Kansas City. In fact, in the red zone, Jesse, there was that one pass to Kittle against the Raiders where he probably some people, I've heard conflicting reports. I've seen some people say that Kittle probably should have just showed his numbers to him, and I've seen some people said that Purdy should have probably thrown it. But that's probably the only risky pass I've seen in the red zone. I don't know about you. Have you seen any other like really risky throws in the red zone?
No, I mean, God, I think that's probably it. Yeah, I don't think there's been any. I mean, he's been on the money, and in fact, even just going back and watching the film of those red zone attempts, I think he's only missed like 1 read the whole time, which I think was also against the Raiders, where he hit Kittle in the back left of the end zone, but he's really hitting his reads. Like, he's throwing it to the correct place every single time, which is extremely impressive. I mean, that's when the field gets tight. That's when defenders can use the boundary in their favor. And so it's not just that he's completing the passes and making the right play, but he's also making the right read. So whether the pass is getting completed or not, there's no other option. Like, wherever he chose to go with the ball was the right read outside of 1 throw that I can think of. That's really impressive.
Yeah, and in the red zone, you got to throw with anticipation. That's why I thought Jimmy struggled there, Jesse, because of the way he throws that rotational style. It's very hard for him to throw with touch. Like, I noticed that. Like, his upper body is just a bit stiff. So I noticed that he struggled to layer throws. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes, like those 2 throws that we've seen Purdy hit against Raiders and Cardinals, I really struggle to see like what's his name, Jimmy layering a throw to the back of the end zone. I feel like because of that style that he throws with, but he was very accurate in the intermediate area. One thing I wanted to discuss with you too is Kyle Shanahan, and I wanted to give you 3 comps, and I want to hear your opinion about this.
Okay.
So, have you noticed that the 3 quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan has had the most success with, like obviously Jimmy G, but if you look at what success he's had with Brock Purdy now, it's more than any success he's ever had with any quarterback. If you just look at the numbers that he has produced, I don't think there's been a 10-game stretch where Jimmy G has produced numbers like this. I don't know if you have them. So I looked at them, and it's Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, and Brock Purdy. And I looked at them, and I tried to find like similarities. And you know what I found the similarities? Because I've watched some old press conferences with post-match press conferences with Kirk Cousins when Kyle was with him, and with Matt Ryan. All 3 guys keep saying the same thing. Kyle, that type of good game plan, and I just had to execute. They keep saying it's like teacher student speak. I don't know if you noticed that dynamic with Purdy in post-match conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very complimentary of the players around him, and I think that's it. I think that's what Kyle has leaned on for a lot of these years, is guys that basically can be like the John Stockton or Jason Kidd of the offense. Is like, just go out, get it in the players' hands. I don't need you to be a Steph Curry or a Damian Lillard type of point guard. I don't need you to go out and try to win these games by yourself. Just get it into the weapons' hands. I'll get them open. You make the right read. We'll win games. I think that's what he has been successful with. I think he wants a guy that can go out and clean up some of his mistakes when he doesn't call the right play. I think Purdy has shown at times he can be that guy. And I think that's where the difference is, because Kirk Cousins, he's not quite the statue that Jimmy is, but he's definitely more of a statue than Purdy. We know Matt Ryan was the same. Matt Schaub, who we had a lot of success with, very similar. Purdy's like the one guy so far that can move on his own. He's not going to go out and get you a bunch of rushing yards, but he can break a pocket. He can break containment. He can buy more time in case these guys aren't open, on top of making the right read. And I think Kyle's got to be loving that for a change.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one thing I would say more about that is that I feel like this is the biggest test, Jesse, because like I told you earlier, I didn't want to discuss this part, but like I do feel like Mike Shanahan is behind the scenes and is a big part of this team too. So these 2 guys, have they ever won anything without a Hall of Fame quarterback? They haven't done it. Like, without the non-Hall of Fame quarterbacks, have they won a Super Bowl without? They won with Steve Young and what's his name?
John Elway.
With John Elway. All the other guys that you could comp them to the type of quarterback that they've had, they tried to win with them. They tried to say that my system is the prevailing, what do you call it? The prevailing element of my offense. So if he does win with Purdy, to me, that would be a vindication for him that I can win with my system. One last question I had for you, Jesse. Sorry, if I know it's almost 1 a.m.
No, you're
12
good. You're good.
a.m. and you want to sleep. Deebo Samuel. Can we discuss what this guy's role in the offense moving forward is? Because when I look at it, I'm just like, I feel like this offense with CMC, Kittle, and what's his name, Ayuk, and sprinkle of Elijah, I feel like that's enough. So I don't know what Deebo, what his role is. I'm interested to hear what you think.
That's a really good question, because I don't think it's been carved out. I don't think we've seen what his role is or can be with CMC. I think him and CMC overlap so much that it really makes it hard for them to figure it out. I do think that as they get further into the playoffs, that you're still going to see him run the ball a couple times. I think that they want to just get him touches. I think the screen game on the outside edges is a place where he can do some damage still. And I just think the quick hitters, like the quick slants, the screen game, Maybe they can work in the end around again as well, like they used to in 2019, 2020 timeframe. I think that's where he's going to have to carve out a niche because, it's a video that I made earlier in the year when they got CMC, but, Debo is my favorite player in the league, but I made a video and a lot of people were really, really pissed when I made it. But it was basically asking, is his role less significant? Like, is significance taken away from Debo Samuel because Christian McCaffrey's here? And I think the clear answer is yes. I mean, people can get mad all they want, but I think it's a reality. Now, that doesn't mean that Debo can't be effective and isn't still a big part of things, but until they figure out what his exact role is with CMC in this lineup, CMC is the bell cow. He's the star of this offense. It's not Debo Samuel anymore. So they got to figure out how to work those two guys together. And unfortunately, or maybe even fortunately, because maybe Kyle has a great game plan to work them together, but he hasn't had the time to have it come to fruition on the field. And I say that's unfortunate, but maybe it's fortunate because the rest of the league hasn't quite seen it yet. And that's going to be the game changer for him.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Jesse, because like you said, CMC does get a lot of attention, but I do feel like if you're going to throw a route, Jesse, with all due respect to Debo, and I love Debo just like you, do you want that route thrown or that pass thrown to Kittle and Ayuk or Debo? Like, Debo is not even, I would say that I would even take Jawan Jennings throwing a pass to Jawan Jennings before Debo, because I just feel like Debo is not the best wide receiver out there. And I do feel like, and I hate to say this, but I feel like that niche of having Debo in the backfield, I feel like teams have caught up to it. I saw it in the Cardinals game. I don't know if you've seen the film again. Did you see that the linebackers were flowing with CMC every time, and Debo was in the backfield with him, but like there wasn't this. Do you remember last year the attention that Debo used to get? I feel like CMC is getting that now, and maybe that can be a way to put Debo, because remember that pass when Purdy couldn't find anyone and he threw it to Debo. He just had to go past one guy, and he was a 16-yard gain. So I feel like the attention is not on him as much anymore, and that, like you said, that could be an advantage for the 49ers in the playoffs. One last question I have for you. Sorry, I know
before you go to the next one, I do want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
One thing that showed up in a very, very small sample size, and I wish I could remember the game, but I remember when I went back and was watching the film on one of the games. This was about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. They had a play where they would motion down Debo and CMC in the backfield together. And what that was allowing them to do was get guys like Kittle and Ayuk wide open on quick hitters, because the defense and the linebacker, it wasn't Seattle because they weren't healthy against Seattle, but either way, it sucked the linebackers way up because they were so worried, like, okay, we got both these guys in the backfield. One of them is bound to get it. That wasn't the case, and they were able to just go through and get those quick hitters to Kittle, get those quick slants to Ayuk, and I think that right there is kind of using them together as the ultimate decoy. It really can help out the rest of the team.
Yeah, somebody called him Decoy Samuel. That's the new nickname they came up for Debo. So, somebody on Twitter.
What else you got? You said you had one more thing. Sorry.
Yeah. So, So, the last thing that I had question for you, it was regarding the defense. So, Jesse, I feel like teams, and this is an advantage for us. I hope there's no coaches from in the playoffs in the NFC or if are watching this. Okay, let's hope for that. Teams haven't caught up to the 49ers defense's philosophy or how the defense is this year, in my opinion. And here's why. 2019, 2020, we had all the injuries in the past, so I won't count that. 2019 and 2021, we were a pass rush heavy team. We weren't as good against the run. We honestly weren't. This year, we're dominant against the run, but these teams think that we are the old 49ers that had all that great pass rush. We have one great pass rusher, in my opinion. The rest, to me, are adequate, but they are not the level that we used to have. Even last year, Arden Key was dominant inside pass rusher. He was kind of doing that DeForest Buckner stuff on third down. I feel like teams haven't caught up to that. They keep trying to run against the 49ers, and that's an advantage for the 49ers. The teams that have thrown it against us, those teams have noticed that, wait, they don't have, it's the pass rush is not coming as quickly. You know, in the interior pass rush is not coming as quickly. So that's one thing I have noticed. So I wondered, what do you think about the 49ers like defense, how it looks this year as opposed to previous?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's more well-rounded than it's ever been. I think that's why it gets interesting, and it may not happen until the Super Bowl because I don't know if there's a quarterback in the NFC that can really press the 49ers the way that they need to be pressed defensively. But especially when you play a team like the Bills or the Chiefs that aren't really settled in on making the run game work, they're just trying to win on the right arm of their elite quarterback. That's where it would get really, really interesting to see what the 49ers can do because, you know, eventually Patrick Mahomes and a Josh Allen or even a Burrow, they're going to get to you, you know? And so I think that's why the Super Bowl is where it gets really interesting. I think the Eagles are super loaded. They're a really, really good team. But the question with Hurts is, can he beat you with his right arm? If they can contain Hurts, which is easier said than done, by the way, then I think they can probably stop Hurts from beating him because I don't think that he can do it solely on his arm, at least not yet. So we'll see. I you know, I agree with you. I think it's the most well-rounded defense. I think the way to beat them is through the air. I just don't think that foe is available in the NFC, and I think that's why, you know, the title of the show is the 49ers have the easiest path to get to the Super Bowl. Well, I think that's a big reason why.
Yeah, but one thing, Jesse, is that don't you feel like what's his name, D'Amico, and I love D'Amico, but I feel like his philosophy is my guys are better than you, and that works against most teams, not against the best quarterbacks. You have to put in wrinkles they haven't seen before. Do you remember last year's AFC Championship game when Mahomes saw the rush 3 drop 8 because he had never seen it before and he looked flustered? Why? He's the best quarterback because he'd never seen it before. I hope D'Amico learns from that and comes up with different wrinkles, not like change too much, but like comes up with different wrinkles just to confuse, because the best quarterbacks are the best for a reason. They are rarely confused. So
Yeah,
that's the last thing I want to say.
I agree with that. And you know, it's funny because cover 2 shells is what beat Mahomes in that Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. And then the very next year, he started out a little bit slow again because people were running the cover 2 shell on him. Well, it's interesting because he got it about 8 to 10 games before anybody else started to do it to the rest of the league. And so he worked out those kinks. And now the rest of the league has gone to this cover 2 shell. And he's like, I've been seeing this for 2.5 years. Like I'm ready for this defense. So most offenses are struggling a lot more against the cover 2 shell because they're not used to it. The league has been a cover 1 shell for so many years now that the cover 2 shell is really baffling a lot of these quarterbacks. Well, a guy like Patrick Mahomes is not baffled by it because he's been ahead of the curve. He's seen it now for a couple years, unlike most of these quarterbacks. So I don't know if there's much out there that's going to throw him for a loop at this point. But, you know, they may not even face Patrick Mahomes, so we'll see.
Yeah, that is really intriguing. And I just hope that we, like you said, the last thing I will say about the playoffs and how we will turn out. To me, here's what I think. I'm not going to get mad about these things, these things. I will not get mad about them, which is Purdy, who is, let's be honest, a 7th-round rookie imploding. I will not get mad about that. To me, that is a range of possibility. I will not get mad about this second thing, which is an elite quarterback shredding the defense, and that's the reason why we lose. Hey, it happens. It's an elite quarterback. I will be fine with that too. What I will not accept is what you said, and I would not say a 10-point lead. I would just say the team having an advantage and losing because of decisions by Kyle. To me, that is what I will not accept as a fan. And I think that's what most 49ers fans agree on. That's all I have to say about it.
Couldn't agree more. Giannis, great call as always. Hopefully we talk next week after a 49er victory. Thanks for calling in, brother.
Thank you. And good night.
All right. Later, you too. Mitch, so I have it or had it pinned to the top of the chat, but I'm 2 hours deep now. So I'm going to end this one. But when I do the call-ins, it's always pinned to the top of the chat. So you can just click the link get in there. Tomorrow I'll be on with Grant, and then we'll be back here with Sunil. Thursday, we're doing Behind Enemy Lines with the Seattle content creator. You've seen him a couple times now. Same guy, Brandon, the Hawks Nester. We'll be talking shop for sure. Y'all have a great night. Stay blessed, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.